Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or just welcome if you're new. My name is Eboni Harris and I'm a licensed therapist and serial entrepreneur based in Houston, Texas. So today we are doing another talking video. I've not done one of these videos in a minute. I just have not been consistent with YouTube, but I've had lots of thoughts. I've been over on my TikTok if you want to check that out. Something that comes up often with clients is difficulty in being vulnerable. And as a person who has also struggled with difficulty in being vulnerable, I think it's important to understand why we might not lean into that. Along with that, we also need to know the difference between sharing openly and being vulnerable. Because there are times when people share and we're like, oh my God, they're so vulnerable. They shared so much. And in reality, sharing something that does not cause you harm, sharing something that cannot be used against you, sharing something that you have no emotional connection to, it's not really being vulnerable. It's like sharing for performance, if that makes sense. So an example is, I'm a licensed therapist, I'm a professional, and so while I talk about a lot of these topics on camera, online, I'm very strategic in what I share. There are times I tell stories about friends, about myself, but I'm very vague. I don't give a lot of details, and a lot of times you still don't know anything about my personal life because I'm a therapist. And if a client comes across my videos, I don't necessarily want them to feel like, oh my God, now I know everything about my therapist, and there's like this tension that grows. So I have to be careful about what I share. So I can share things, but I'm not really vulnerable to that capacity on camera, as far as like sharing any struggles I'm having, sharing things that are unresolved in the moment, and all of that. I do think we have to be very smart about how we share online. I think that's extremely important. But what we're going to talk about today is sharing in personal relationships and the difficulty that we have in being vulnerable with people that we want to build connection with, that we feel are safe spaces, but for whatever reason we still have not been able to lean into like opening up to them. And so let's talk about the reasons why that may be happening. One of the biggest reasons I see a lot is that we don't believe it's okay for people to see our faults, our flaws, or our mistakes. It can feel like a mistake equals a character flaw, and we can see that in ourselves, or we expect others to see that. Because of that, we feel like we have to show up perfectly, and we don't want to show those vulnerable stages when we don't really know what we're doing. And that's why sometimes when you're trying something new, you're going to do that in private. You don't want anyone to see you as you stumble, as you mess up, as you start your journey. You want to make it look as smooth as possible, and so that means you do all the dirty, hard work in the dark. The struggle is, if you're doing it in the dark, it's sometimes hard to know how you need to get better and what needs to improve. If you're trying to build a business and talking to people about it, getting clients, some people need everything to be perfect before they even start, that it actually stops them from starting, right? And so then that means, because I'm so scared of you seeing the vulnerable parts, because I'm scared of you seeing my stutter, because I'm scared of you seeing me make mistakes, because I'm scared of the awkward phase, I won't even try. Letting people see you in that awkward phase, letting people see your mistakes, or letting people see the growth is an opportunity for you to be vulnerable. And it's not a character flaw if you make mistakes. It's not a character flaw to be awkward. It's a learning phase. Growth happens through those awkward phases. Another reason why people don't want to be vulnerable is that they fear that the vulnerability will be used against them as a weapon. This could be because they've experienced that before, where I talked to a previous partner and anytime we got into a fight, they would throw it in my face. It could be because they do it, right? If someone says something to them, they know how they can use it as a weapon against other people, and the assumption is someone would do it to me. It could be because when they were younger, that was an experience they had, and so they just never tried it again. The belief that if I give you some information, you will use it as ammo really goes to show the lack of trust for the person and the lack of trust for yourself. This does not mean that anybody you meet, you can tell them everything and it's okay. But how do you build trust with someone to see if that is their character? Are they doing that to other people? Have they ever done it to you before? Can you give them opportunities to show up for you in a way that maybe somebody else hasn't? I think also when we talk about a lack of trust in ourselves, even if someone does something like that, sometimes we don't know if, will I walk away? Will I set a boundary? Will I make it clear and stand up for myself? And if I don't trust that I can do that and I can't speak up for myself, then I'm not going to put myself in a position where I have to try it, right? And so that's where that lack of trust of self, lack of trust that you'll actually take care of yourself comes from. Also, if you're a person that does this, right? If you're a person that actually uses someone else's vulnerability against them, then you have to work on that so you can believe that this is not just a normal trait that everybody does. Everybody isn't trying to find a weapon. They're not trying to find ammo. They're not trying to one-up you or anything like that. And so if that's what it feels like, oh, well, I know I do this, so that means that, somebody everybody else is going to do it. Maybe you should work on stopping your behavior so that you can see that, oh, okay, everybody's brain doesn't have to go this way, because now I've trained myself not to go that way either. The third reason why you may struggle with being vulnerable is that you feel like you're special. And I like saying it that way because I feel like we've all heard, oh, you're special, you're so important, you're this. All of that's true. You're special. You have unique traits. Everything about that is true. But what happens is we think we are so special that no one else will understand what's happening. We think we're so special that, like, if I share my story, no one will be able to relate, no one will be able to understand, and that makes us special, and it makes us be able to wallow in this, like, woe is me, I'm the only person that's experienced this, I'm the only person that's going through this, and no one will get it. And while yes, every experience you have is unique. If you have lost parents and you have a friend that's lost parents, I'm sure y'all lost parents at different ages. You probably had different experiences. Once your parents passed, you've had different experiences with your family. While we both can say we've lost a parent, that does not mean that our experiences have been the same. But that also does not mean that that person cannot relate to you in any type of way. And so we're often looking for reasons to, like, feel like, well, no, my situation is unique and special, so there's no reason to share. You're not going to be able to relate. You're not going to be able to understand. But the reality is, people connect to vulnerability. People connect to seeing who you really are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's not saying everyone should see all of the parts of you all the time. It's just understanding that connection also comes from vulnerability. Connection also comes from sharing. And while someone may not completely understand every single thing that you've went through, that does not mean that does not give them a better lens to get to know you, and it doesn't help them understand you better and connect with you more when you do share. And they can also say, while I haven't been through that, I can imagine, I can understand the difficulty of what you've went through, and or I can just receive and accept when you tell me how difficult it's been, right? Because there are times somebody tells me their experience and I'm like, man, my brain would have never went there. I am very good at compartmentalizing, and I'm very good at putting things where they need to go in my life to keep things smooth and peaceful and calm, whatever I need to do to not be sitting in stress for long periods of time. But there are some people that need to sit in stress for long periods of time. Like, that's just the way their brain works. And so while I cannot understand it because my brain will never go there, I don't need to understand it to have empathy. I don't need to understand it to have compassion. I don't need to understand it to say, like, I see that this is difficult for you, and I can sit with you in this for a little bit because I do understand that may be what you need. But that does not mean that I have felt the exact experience that you felt, right? And I think we believe that unless somebody has felt it exactly as we have, then they can't help us, or there's nothing they can do for us. And the reality is, while no one else can fix whatever's happening and no one else can make it better, that does not mean they cannot be there for you. Yes, you are unique and you have things that have happened to you, but you are not so special that nobody in the world will never understand what you've went through, that nobody in the world could ever be empathetic or compassionate for you and your situation. Another reason why people are not vulnerable sometimes is the fear of rejection. As many people who are loners and navigate the world by themselves and all of that, that does not mean that they don't desire connection. That does not mean that they don't desire to have people in their life in some capacity. And oftentimes there is this part of us that fears, or lots of part of us actually, that fear rejection. And so we try to show up in spaces in ways where people will like us and enjoy us. We fear that the parts of us that are vulnerable, the parts of us that carry some of our burdens, are not lovable, and people will not like them or love them. And sometimes the way that we deal with that is self-sabotage. Sometimes the way we deal with that is we display it on 10 the first time you meet somebody before they've even gotten a chance to get to know you, to prove, see, that part of me isn't lovable. This is why I can't be vulnerable. This is why I can't show myself to people. But the reality is, all parts of you deserve love, care, and compassion, right? And what we have to learn to do is start to give ourselves that before we can expect other people to give us that. And the way that you prove that is not by meeting someone, or within the first couple meetings you're telling them all the horrible things about you and seeing if they still want to be around you, or by displaying bad behavior to say, well, if they can't accept me at my worst, they don't deserve me at my best. No, you do that by, one, having compassion, love, and care for yourself so that you can know what that looks like. What does it look like when you are not in your best self, when you are struggling, when you're having a hard time, and how do you treat yourself so that then you can accept it when other people treat you in that same way? I've definitely seen people that when they are struggling and someone tries to show care, they try to show love, they check in, are you okay? I'm so sorry you're going through this. They find every reason to reject it, right? They find every reason to be like, nope, this isn't care because it doesn't look like this. Care only looks like X, XYZ. And even if somebody does the things that are XYZ, it still doesn't feel like care, because again, they don't know what it feels like because they haven't done it for themselves. And so recognizing that all the parts of you deserve love, care, and compassion. All the parts of you are there for a reason. And when you can accept and believe that, then it becomes easier for other people to accept and believe that. The more that we show ourselves grace, the more that we show ourselves love, compassion, care, and all of those, the more that we're able to receive it when other people are trying to show us the same thing. The last reason, and I think a lot of people can relate to this as to why they refuse to be vulnerable, is that they believe that their needs are not more important than the comfort of the people around them. Okay? You believe that I need to make sure everyone around me is okay, and if I'm vulnerable, it will make them uncomfortable. If I share what I'm struggling with, they may not like me. They may not want to talk to me. It is more important that I keep everyone around me comfortable, and I don't ruffle any feathers. I don't make anybody uncomfortable by telling them like I'm frustrated with them, or sharing that I'm scared to move forward in this relationship for XYZ reason. Their comfort becomes more important than my actual needs. Their comfort becomes more important than what I need to feel connected, to feel supported, to feel cared for. Until you start to recognize that your needs matter and there is space for both, there is space for, I can have their needs met, I could talk about their needs, we could talk about with all of that, and there is space for my needs as well. There is space for, I'll tell you this thing that I know if it was me I wouldn't want to hear, but I think it's important for us to feel connected, for you to know me fully. I think all of that is important for us to be able to get there. Speaking up for yourself and someone being uncomfortable with it is okay. Discomfort is not a reason to not engage. Discomfort is not a reason to not have a conversation. Discomfort is usually the reason why you know you need to have the conversation. If this is something that is bothering you, or something that you feel like you want to share, you want to talk about, but you're so consumed with the discomfort of others, then it's just going to eat away at you, and they don't even know that it's a problem. It's important to recognize that there are times when your needs and someone else's discomfort can coexist, and that does not mean that person is going to leave. That does not mean that person is going to get upset and mad or anything like that. It's important to recognize that both can be true, and both can actually get you further along within a relationship when you can have those conversations and overcome it, because it makes you feel more comfortable in being able to speak up for yourself, and it helps other people say, okay, we have a relationship where we can say what we need to say, and we can speak how we need to speak, and it's perfectly okay. Those are some of the reasons why we struggle to be vulnerable in our relationships, in our communities, and with the people that we care about and we actually want to have connection with. If you have any more, please put them down in the comments, or let me know your thoughts on these reasons. Do you feel like, yes, that's a legitimate reason, or do you feel like, no, this is my reason why? And what do you do about it? I appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you subscribe, comment, like, all the things, and I'll talk to you next time. That's all.